Today, everybody, I have a treat for all of you. I did an interview with Alan Thompson of the marketing department at BYU Idaho. We talked about his career, some things he's learned along the way, mentorship, and pursuing your passion projects on the side and finding success with that and what that looks like. Some of the habits and other things that you'll want to do so you can make that a reality for yourself. For me, being a budding author, this was a super good interview for me, and I hope you all enjoy it as well. In this interview, we talked about his book that would be coming out soon. That book has released. It's called Abomination Desolation, and links to it are in the show notes. Thank you all so much for listening, and I really hope you enjoy this episode as much as we enjoyed recording it. It was a ball. Thanks for listening. What's up, everybody? This is Dallin, Candland. We are back with you today. I am joined by Alan Thompson. He was my email marketing professor this semester at BYU Idaho, and he has a lot to say on this subject. Thank you for joining the show.
No problem. Glad to be here.
So just hopping right into it, how did you know you wanted to be an email marketer?
Well, it wasn't fundamentally that I wanted to be an email marketer per se, but I started out doing digital marketing. And so my career basically evolved from when I first started in digital marketing, working mostly in display advertising, and then doing more kind of database back-end stuff into email marketing. And email marketing very much leverages database marketing from a perspective of being able to drive the most relevant emails to consumers.
So basically has built up over time from other interests?
Yeah, well, it's built up kind of from other interests. My primary interest being in digital marketing and advertising, but then as opportunities presented themselves in my career, and I had opportunities to go work at other companies, you get exposed to new things, and most people, you'll find your careers do take that same path. As you start in one area, and then you kind of will leverage that experience and expertise that you build to get you into new areas.
That's awesome. So you worked at Yahoo pretty early on in your career, if I'm correct. So how did that kind of happen? Did somebody come and talk to your college, or did somebody, you were probably out of college by then.
I was out of college, yeah.
Okay.
So, really the first job I had was actually working as a software engineer for Sun Microsystems. So big computer corporation. And I started working with them right out of high school because I was a techno nerd guy who was in the lab building games and stuff like that.
There you go.
And so when I was doing full-time school, full-time work, and when I got my undergrad at San Jose State, I was still at Sun Microsystems. I worked there for a period of about 7 years. And then as I was working on my MBA, I was still at Sun, and that's when I went to work at a company called Netscape, which is the first internet marketing company that was out there. They had the NCSA Mosaic browser, which turned into the Netscape browser. And so that was really kind of my first job in digital marketing advertising was there. Yahoo came along after that a couple jobs later, and I started working at Yahoo in 2001. At Yahoo, I was responsible for the data and targeting initiatives for the U.S. So had a team of 100 engineers, and we took 12 terabytes of data on a daily basis. We aggregated it, summarized it. Man. We did behavioral modeling, profiling. I was basically Big Brother. Very fun, very cool job.
Wow. That's crazy. Has there been some mentors that you met early on that have kind of just guided you through the process?
Absolutely. I would say probably the one person who had the most significant impact on my career was a manager that I had when I worked at AdForce. That was a startup that I worked at after Netscape. And his name was Roy Brzezowski, I pronounced that correctly. And he actually came to our company. He worked at HP, Hewlett Packard.
Oh, nice.
And he was one of the product managers that worked on the launch of the first laptop computer. Believe that, right?
Wow.
And so we're talking amazing. Stone Age, man. This is a really long time ago. But he came to AdForce with just this huge breadth and depth of knowledge in product marketing management, and how to do stuff. And there wasn't anything I could throw at him as far as a question or something I was looking to learn or wanted to understand that he hadn't done before.
Wow.
And so he was awesome, and he was very open to providing information, guidance, advice, mentoring, and I basically sponged it as much as I could.
There's such a big opportunity in the world today to just sponge up a ton of really good information from people. A lot of people will share, their products to learn some of their tactics and their skills, but it's really beneficial to have a personal relationship with that person. So.
It does, and especially if it's like in the workplace and in the context of the job you're doing. There's a ton of information that's online. Like, you can go watch how-to videos on YouTube or on lynda.com or different things like that. But honestly, nothing beats sitting down with somebody who is an expert. They've been there, done that, and they can apply firsthand their experience and help you answer questions.
Yeah, because you need somebody who's invested in you, and wants to help you out, and that's exactly what a mentor does.
Absolutely.
So. That's awesome. Has there been anybody that you've been able to use your expertise and skills in marketing and mentoring those people?
Absolutely. Multiple people in my career. So I mentioned the company AdForce that I worked at with Roy. I hired an individual from client services into product management while I was there. So I took over as director of product marketing, and I was looking to build out my team. Mm-hmm. And so I knew this person really knew the application inside and out from a customer perspective, but he didn't have that quote product management experience. But I knew he was sharp. He was just super smart, articulate guy. And so I brought him on board and worked with him and kind of groomed / mentored to get him up to speed. When AdForce is one of the companies that was like in the .com bomb. Like in 2001 when basically all the venture capital dried up and had companies that went out of business. AdForce went out of business, and after AdForce, that's when I got the job at Yahoo. When I went to Yahoo, I actually created a job there and hired this guy to work for me at Yahoo.
Dang.
He was that awesome. And I moved him from Southern California up to the Bay Area. It gets better. So after I left Yahoo, I was there at Yahoo for a few years, and I left Yahoo. I went to go work at Experian, one of the credit bureaus back in Chicago. Mm-hmm. And so when I moved to Chicago, guess what I did? I created a job, and I moved this guy cross country
from California
to Chicago to work for me. So he was awesome. So he's one example. When I was in another company called the Allant Group, I had another person that I worked with really closely. At Netscape, I had somebody on the technical side as well I'm mentoring with. So it's one of those things that I always felt, I don't want to say, I didn't feel obligated to do it, but it's something that I wanted to do and something I really enjoyed doing. And so I look for opportunities.
Dang. What do you say, like, when you meet somebody new or somebody's making a lot of, like, progress really fast? Is that kind of what you look for before mentoring somebody? Or did he go out and be like, hey, I want you to be my mentor, da-da-da-da?
I think it's more so, I mean, as a manager, especially like if you're in a leadership position, you really need to be mentoring all of your employees. And what happens, though, is you have employees who naturally gravitate and they really take advantage of that opportunity to get mentoring. This guy was one of those. And so yeah, you see some kind of the base level stuff. Okay, smart person. They really get it. This is someone who I think I can work with well from a chemistry level, interpersonal.
Yeah.
But then, if he came into it and he wasn't open to constructive criticism or advice or helping comments and things like that, it would have gone anywhere. So it's definitely a two-way street.
Yeah.
I can have the best attitude about it, and then the people that are working for me just don't want anything to do with it. Well, it's not going to work.
That's good. You bring up a really good point. Something I was thinking about when I was coming up with some of the ideas of questions I would ask you. Mm-hmm. You might have seen it. There's a video that the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints put out about this guy who's on this cruise, and he has great plans to see all these different cities, but he was under the assumption that all those things on the ship cost money. So the parties, all the food. Do you know what I'm kind of talking about?
I haven't seen the video, but I definitely know about the what comes on a cruise ship and how that works.
It's a great analogy, but the idea is that, he gets to see all these places that he's always wanted to see, but he doesn't get to have any of that great food. Basically, what he lives on is powdered lemonade and beans. And so he lives on that for this very long time. I'm pretty sure it's a hypothetical story.
Yeah, it must be like something from the past, like someone who's like coming on the Titanic, or, well, hopefully not the Titanic, but they come on a ship like cross transatlantic or something, and it's, different class of tickets, and basically, it's not like cruises today. You take like I don't want to drop a marketing drop for a company here, but take a major cruise line, anywhere, and it's like everything's pretty much inclusive. All the food, the activities, and all that.
Absolutely. So that's what he finds out at the end of the video, the end of the story. He's like, the guy, one of those, guys comes up and is like, hey, what party do you want to go to? Because it's all paid for. He's like, oh, wow, I totally missed out. He had seen all these things. Maybe I want to liken this to getting a career or a major, getting a job, getting your degree. That's what I meant to say. I guess it could be related to all those other things I mentioned. But there's a lot of people, I feel like, that kind of come to school and they kind of get the experience. They get to go through the classes, but there's not really much taking advantage of the resources, like you said. And they maybe they don't live on rice and beans, but they do in their opportunities and stuff. Yeah. So what's I guess what are some of your tips or things you did that helped you to not fall into that same trap?
Like, so for me, my career?
Yeah, it could be that, or things, actually probably more like for students, you in your role, because you are part of the faculty at BYU.
In the marketing department. Right. So, so in the classes I teach, from the very first day of class, I'm always telling students, if you have questions, if you want to talk about stuff, come by my office. Something that's really unique about BYUI, Brigham Young University, Idaho, and BYU Provo for that matter, but BYUI really is a standout in that we're super student focused.
Yeah.
And so, students here do have the opportunity, and the faculty want them to come and talk to us. And so I give them that opportunity, and what I see in my classes is it's kind of hit and miss. Sometimes I'll have, I would say on average I might have 4 or 5 students who come on a fairly regular basis, who I get to know really well, and they come to my office during office hours, maybe to ask questions about a specific homework assignment, maybe even to talk about marketing, career opportunities, or sometimes just life in general. And so you get a good rapport with them, but those are the people who really just kind of said, hey, I'm going to not take advantage, but I'm going to go ahead and utilize this opportunity that I've been given here to go talk with somebody who's got all this experience, has this expertise, and would love to tell people about it and help them.
Yeah, I feel like I was pretty blessed of meeting people quickly at BYU Idaho who cared about me, and kind of like you said, the student focus I've definitely felt, and it's made a big difference. But you gotta sometimes seek those opportunities out. The help is there. People are extending their hand saying like, hey, here's me helping you out, but you have to you have to show that you want it.
Yeah, you have to act.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. Well, we're going to get a little bit more personal here. You've been working on a private project for a while, and it is a book. It is available to read now. It's called Creation Abomination. I haven't read it personally myself, but I do plan to read it in the future.
But he heard it's an awesome book, and he's right.
I've read some reviews of it, and they were very, very interesting and cool.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I remember you bringing up in class how it's been a kind of a long-term project. You had the idea for a while, and
right.
I'm going to be talking about it in a future episode of the podcast about keeping those ideas alive and making sure that they don't go to waste, because this idea could have easily been like, hey, this is great, and just forgot about it, and you may never have acted on it.
Well, and I almost did.
Yeah.
Because when I originally had the idea for the book, it was back in 1995.
Oh, wow.
I know.
That's before I was born.
That's yes, I'm very old. But in 1995, and I had read the book Jurassic Park by Michael Crichton.
Okay.
And I love hard science, accurate science fiction. I do like imaginary science fiction too, but I just something about the hard science, which makes it more plausible, so it just makes it more enjoyable of a story to me. And so when I read the book, I had this idea because I love the idea of cloning, and I love the idea of all the science and accuracy there. But I also really love the whole premise of supernatural angels and demons. And so I wrote this 28-page outline in 1995.
A 28-page outline?
I'm OCD, yes.
Wow, that's amazing.
Wrote a 28-page outline, and then I let it sit for 15 years.
Oh my gosh.
And it wasn't until 2010 where I was kind of looking back at it and going, I really need to write this, because I'm like, I love the idea, but it's like life happens, things come up, take up your time, and I finally decided, I'm going to do it. And so I'm still working in corporate, and it took me 6 years to write. And the reason it took so long was I always tell people, I describe it as the planets aligning, right? So you've got the planets aligning of motivation and free time. and that rarely happened. So I would go like 6 months without even touching it.
Yeah.
But I just stuck with it and finally was able to get it out.
I totally agree with the motivation free time thing.
It's hard, right?
It seems like this semester, like it's like, yeah, I got 4 hours to do whatever I want. It's like, well, I don't want to do it.
And then you turn Netflix on, you're like, okay, let's watch the next episode.
Yeah, or like boot up a video game, or usually lately it's been like I'll watch a YouTube video and I kind of convince myself it is productive, and maybe in some way it is, but if there's no like action to it, because I watch a lot of like the marketing and you know, business driven YouTube channels, but like, yeah, if there's no action with it, or you're not applying it to yourself, then it's kind of like you're eating popcorn. I don't know. You can come up with an analogy, but it's just not as beneficial.
Gotcha.
So, well, that's really awesome. There's what would you say, like, because I'm interested. You got to work a lot in respective fields, and you worked on it, you said, for 6 years?
Yeah.
So, like, did you set apart, and we've talked about this because I'm writing a book right now, and I'm kind of in this,
right.
I'm like hitting a wall.
Head against the concrete.
Yeah. So, like, so, like, two quick things. Like, what's kind of helped you come up with that outline and have the vision? Was it, like, helping people have a feeling for the characters?
Right. Well, so as I kind of described, especially because I'm so detail-oriented, having that outline was critical to me. And so I spent a good amount of time going through, developing the outline, kind of building out, and in the outline I kind of built out the characters and what I thought were some of the characteristics and personality quirks of them, and things like that. And that, for me, was really required in order to then, because then it gave me like a roadmap. It gave me an action plan to then execute against and to then deliver and write. I'm just finishing up right now book 2, because it's actually a 3-book series. Okay. And this one's gone much faster because number one, I'm not working corporate anymore, so I'm not. I work really hard here at BYUI, but I had my last corporate job. I had 3 hours of commute, an hour and a half each way, just to get into the city of Chicago. So I was pretty tired by the time I got home. Yeah. And then you spend time with the family. By the time you're done, it's like, wow, it's 10 at night. What am I? Okay, I'll write for 30 minutes, maybe. And so now I definitely have a really great work-life balance. And of course, then I tell my wife, okay, I can go write, and I disappear. But I've just had more opportunity to do that. In the second book, I took the same approach. I wrote a very detailed outline. This one was 33 pages for book 2. And I'm actually executing and churning through that right now, targeting probably realistically like the beginning of January is when I'll finish. Cool. And then I'll go through all the edits and stuff like that and make it available. Wow.
There we go. That's some good stuff right there. You told me in class, you gave me a quick tip to have like a reading not a reading playlist, but like a writing playlist to kind of help you out when you want to get in that writing mood. Yeah. Is there any other like habits or different things? Like, do you write in your office? Do you write only in a specific spot of your home?
So I write in my office at home, and so I'm basically in my office doing that. But I do have like this playlist you talk about, and so literally what I do is I go to iHeartRadio and I put on Tchaikovsky. I put on the classical, and the reason I love the classical so much is it uses your creative side of the brain more. It like taps into that, and then you're thinking, but it also taps in because honestly, music is really mathematical. And so it kind of also taps into your more analytical side of the brain at the same time.
Interesting.
And I found having that, because you kind of, you really have that crossover between the two halves of your brains, and that just lets me get in mode. And it's be different for everybody, right? Some people might be like, I can't have music, it has to be absolute silence. Some people say I have to sit on a beach. That won't work for me. I'd be like, I don't want to write. Let's go have some fun. Yeah. But yeah, that's the mode I get into. And when I do that and I sit down, I essentially just kind of get lost with in the writing and in the storyline, and I will start a chapter and I'll sit and I'll write until that chapter's done.
Wow, so you just throw it all out, get it all done right off the bat. So
yeah, and then lots of edits.
Yeah, that's something I've been trying to work on, is just writing and not editing as I'm writing.
It's tough because you're in the moment. You're like, oh, let's try to make that sound better, and then you sit there for 15 minutes like on one sentence. And it's just better to kind of get it out in like kind of one stream of consciousness, if that's possible.
Awesome. So are there any podcasts or any books that have helped you a lot in developing your skill set, or that have just kind of guided you on the path that you're on?
I would so not any podcasts. I'm funny enough, I'm not really a big podcast listener.
Interesting. Yeah.
As far as books, I would say I've never like read formal books on how to write or the mechanics of that, but I read a lot. And you hear the old adage, the best writers are good readers.
Yeah.
And so I think about who are the authors that like influenced me the most. And fun enough, so you think like I think about authors that have had an impact on me. Immediately, I go to the fantasy genre. And so David Eddings did the Malloreon and the Pawn of Prophecy. I read those when I was like a teenager back in the 80s. And then, of course, like Robert Jordan, Brandon Sanderson. So those are some really influential, good authors that I've enjoyed. And but then I also think on more of the science side, especially kind of more of the supernatural or thriller side. So I think like Don Kuntz, Stephen King, even Frankie Peretti. Those are also authors who kind of write on more of the kind of edge of your seat thriller type of thing. And then I guess the other thing I'd mention there too is I am because you were talking about YouTube. Am I wasting my time on YouTube? I'm a movie freak. I love watching movies, and I never think of it really as I'm doing research or I'm building up my ability to think creatively and stuff. But honestly, it does have an impact on it. And I've been blessed with a ability to have really great recall, like things I read or movies I watch and things like that. And that helps me to formulate different scenes or say things in a certain way that might elicit the emotional response that I'm trying to get, to really kind of draw the reader into the story.
Nice. What's like one of your favorite? Okay, I'll just get it right out there. What are your feelings about Harry Potter?
Harry Potter. Wow. So I think of that in a couple ways. It's funny. So like the Harry Potter books. When J.K. Rowling first came out with her books, her writing style wasn't that great. And but to be totally honest, my writing style is improving over my first book, that Creation Abominations. That's kind of a given. And so when you get into the end of the books, her writing style was really good. And it's also interesting because you try to separate the books from the movies. Because the movies were not as good as the books. I mean, they were good.
No, yeah, definitely.
But the book is, I mean, that's another trite phrase, but it is. The book is always better. And so, I mean, I enjoy Harry Potter. It's not my go-to, all-time favorite book, but it's a fun one.
Nice. Yeah, I recently rewatched all the Harry Potter movies and kind of related it to different aspects of my life because Harry goes through all these different challenges and experiences in every year of school, and it kind of prepares him for the rest of his life. And that's kind of how I see college and my master's, will be similar to that.
Without the wand.
Yeah, without the wand, without the magic.
And the butterbeer.
Yeah, and the butterbeer. Taking that part out of the equation for sure. But yeah, I read a lot of the Rick Riordan books. So like Lightning Thief, Sea of Monsters,
right.
Titan's Curse. I really like those. There's different things from those about certain characters and how they respond to situations that definitely inspired me. So
cool.
That's awesome. Well, I wanted to hop a little bit into your LinkedIn profile. So there was something about on there, and it said that you've demonstrated a lot of emotional intelligence over time. And that's something that we talk about in IBC, and I made an episode about succeeding in IBC recently from a bunch of different students who've done it, and we're currently going through it and finished it. But what are some of your thoughts on building emotional intelligence?
So the first thing I say there, so you saw my LinkedIn profile. I didn't say that I have high emotional intelligence, so I make sure people don't think I'm a complete narcissist on this. But you're talking about like the recommendations, like if people like give a recommendation of me. And so so emotional intelligence, first I guess the best thing to do is even just kind of describe what it is. And so emotional intelligence is really kind of there's self-awareness in that. It's having awareness of yourself, how others perceive you, how you deal in social situations and how you interact. And having an awareness of others, how they perceive you, their feelings for themselves and about the work they're doing, all that's kind of intertwined in emotional intelligence. I love emotional intelligence because you think about, you have like raw IQ, okay, the raw IQ intelligence quotient, and people are essentially, this is Alan's philosophy. I don't know if this is scientifically accurate, but I think it's pretty accurate.
Mm-hmm.
People are inherently born with an IQ.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's you know. Okay, I have an IQ, and if I study and I push myself, and I learn and I apply and I gain skills, I'll be able to take advantage of that. But there's not much that you can do to really move kind of your raw IQ, your intelligence quotient score. You can definitely take advantage of the aptitude that you have to learn.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Then there's emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is great because you can improve emotional intelligence. Okay. And there's lots of different facets to that, from like your interaction with other people, self-motivation, self-awareness, and things like that. And we do that in the IBC class, Integrated Business Core, where we have students focus on a specific area, maybe two. I like just focusing on one, because I think if you focus on more than one thing, you're not going to accomplish it.
Yeah.
So focus on one and consciously figure out, okay, how can I get better at accurately perceiving how people perceive me? And once you can do that, there's lots of things you can do to read on it. There's lots of things you can do to actually have conscious conversations with people. And I used to do this even in the workplace. I would go talk to people. Okay, so I felt like I'd go to one of my employees and I'd say, hey, I was giving you feedback on this thing. I felt like I might have been a little too harsh. And was I? And more often than not, they would say, oh, no, you were fine. You say, no, be honest with me. And they're like, oh, really? Well, yeah, you were kind of harsh. I'm like, okay, what about that delivery? What about it? Because I wanted to kind of be, again, more self-aware of how I'm perceived. And I think this is funny. Emotional intelligence and IQ. When in my career, and I tell people, in IBC, I'm working with students, I always tell people, my career, I tallied at one time, it was like 56 people I hired over the course of my career. And I would say in all except for one case, I hired people because of emotional intelligence.
Wow.
Okay, and that had to do with what kind of a fit they were with the team, their openness to feedback, constructive criticism, how, just the chemistry, how well I thought I'd get along with them, how well I thought other people would get along with this person.
Oh, yeah.
And then the one instance where I hired someone just kind of based on pure mental horsepower, it was like a analytics statistician. And it was just I'm going to put you in the closet, and then we'll shut the door. And then you can just kick all the numbers and formulas out. Just don't talk to people.
Oh, man.
And the person was brilliant.
Yeah.
And like 10 times smarter than me in that area, and was just phenomenal. But maybe not the best people skills.
Wow. So there's something that you've brought up again that's kind of gone back to your mentoring tips on having somebody be more likely to being open to mentor you, and that is being able to take that constructive criticism. When you were growing up, were like your parents pretty good about giving you constructive criticism that like helped you grow and everything, or was it kind of more self-discovery like emotional intelligence kind of can be?
So I think it's a hard one, because I think you have again, like kind of with like raw IQ, I think you have because of your personality, you have a general openness to receiving criticism, or just having an ability to have a higher emotional intelligence. You can teach that. You can learn that even if you don't. So I think I had that natural inclination to begin with. And so I did find I was probably more open to receiving that feedback from others. So I think that's probably more accurate. I don't necessarily think that. If anything, my mother probably did the opposite, because she was always, oh, you're just, like the classic mother, you're just perfect, and you're doing this great, and oh, you're so awesome. It's like, okay, well, what am I doing wrong?
Yeah.
And trust me, I wasn't the perfect kid. But we're not going to talk about that in this podcast.
That's okay. That's okay. Well, do you have any quick thoughts? We're just about running out of time, but do you have any like quick thoughts for people that might be struggling with making their ideas happen, or anything like that? I think we've talked about some great stuff, but do you have any like quick, straight from the source tips?
The couple things. Number one, I would say if you get stuck, talk to people.
Yeah.
And it can be friends, it can be family, it can be teachers, it can be coworkers, whomever. But everybody has different perspectives. They bring different experiences that you can leverage, right? And you can use that as a motivation. You can use that to kind of get you past a stumbling block. So I think that's a key thing. And then the other thing I'd say is just don't stop. And I look at that book, and it's out for 15 years, and I could have just as easily just said, I'm not going to do it. And trust me, my life would be I'd be a lot more relaxed in terms of free time and catching sleep and all the other sort of stuff if I didn't have that filling my time. But it's a passion. And actually that last thing just kind of leads me to my final comment on that is find something you're passionate about.
Yeah.
Because when I look back at the level of effort and the work that I've done on this for the last 6 years to write it, and then since I published in 2018, March of 2018, it's crazy. Just the amount of time and effort, and I go to shows and I drive and I talk to people and I give the spiel over and over. But that passion is what drives me, and it's the enjoyment I get out of that. So I think if you can find something that you truly love, that also will help you push through stuff.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that with us, Alan. It's kind of weird to call you Alan, Brother Thompson.
You can call me Alan.
Okay. So how can people find out about your book and what you're up to?
So a couple ways. Easiest way is just go to my website, creationabomination.com. I also have an Instagram and a Facebook page. Just search on Creation Abomination. It'll be the first one that pops up. And then, of course, if somebody, and you can just find out about the book if you wanted to get a copy of the book. So on Amazon, I have digital, paperback, and Audible. I actually hired 2 theater students here at BYUI, a man and woman, do the Audible for me. So it's really cool because they're trained in their craft, way better than I would be if I did the narration. So they do that. And then I also have a hardcover that I sell on barnesandnoble.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time, Brother Thompson, and I wish you the best of luck with your second book launch. I hope it's awesome for you, and thank you for what you shared with us.
You're welcome. Thanks.
All right, guys, thank you so much for listening, and don't forget to yield today. Yes, I am Vision Love demonstrated today.
Yield today. Don't delay.
Yep.